everybody for joining us to our second Idea GT lecture series. Today we have the honor of having Jan Lorenc and Chang Yu from the Lorenc and Yu Design, a firm based in Atlanta. So before we start, my usual request, when we turn off the cell phone or just put it in silence, it'll be very nice. And also I'd like to introduce our speakers, so I'm going to read their bios. Jan Lorenc is a native of Holland. He received both a Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Design and a Master's of Visual Design from the Institute of Design at the Illinois Institute of Technology, and most recently a Master's of Architecture at the Georgia Institute of Technology. Following several years of practice in Chicago, he established Lorenc Design in 1978 and moved to Atlanta in 1981. Jan is the co-author of What is Exhibition Design, a book published by Rotavision of the UK. Chang Yu was born in Seoul, Korea. He holds a Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Design from Georgia Tech in 1987. He also completed his Master of Science at Georgia Tech in 1997. He worked for the Center for Rehabilitation Technology in 1987-1988. And after his work at the center, he joined Lorenc Designs in 1988 and became a partner of Lorenc and Yu in 1995. Sorry. Presently, the firm has allied firms in Korea, Dubai, and Philadelphia, allowing them to practice nationally and internationally. The firm works in micro as well as macro environments, where one day they might be designing a small label pin, and the next day a half-mile-long sculpture and landscape installation. The firm also is comprised by industrial designers, graphic designers, architects who collaborate and complement each other in the creation of integrated design solutions for complex environments. Current projects include the Jack Nicklaus Golf Club of Korea, Samsung Rising Hand Sculpture in Frankfurt, Germany, as well as in Toronto, a retail center in Korea, a Jumeirah Golf Estates in Dubai, a Samsung Telecom exhibit in Moscow, Singapore, and Shanghai, a Mayo Clinic Heritage Health Museum in Rochester, etc., and many others. Over the past 3 decades, Lorenc and Yu Design has received numerous national and international awards from SEGD, STEP. The firm has been published in Identity Magazine, How Magazine, Graphics Annual, Design Korea, Print Casebooks, Signs of the Times, and the Encyclopedia of Architecture and Design. Said that, please let me introduce, let's welcome Lorenc and Yu with a big applause.
Thanks. One of the things I want to talk about, the topic of the discussion is alternate careers in design, and my education in industrial design kind of happened by accident to some degree. I had an intent to go to architecture school, and I found this very strange field called industrial design. And looking at going to IIT was my main goal, looking for architecture. I found the field of industrial design to be very interesting, more so than architecture. But when I first got into the program, I found it to be very stimulating in terms of the variety of things that you get into as a designer, rather than a building architect doing one given thing. So going through the program, going into visual design as a secondary, on top of that, allowed me to look at two varieties of things, from a micro standpoint of industrial design to the graphics that might overlay on that. And then starting the firm in '78 through one of my professors giving me my first client was a big step. One of the first things that wound up doing was looking at things that were, from a graphic standpoint, became manifestations in an environment. And that was Target stores, looking at the identity of Target, looking at the graphics of Target. But that wasn't satisfying enough. One of the things I wanted to do is to try to overlay architecture on top of that in terms of creating an environment that wasn't just a graphic promotional environment. So one of the things that we did at the beginning was product design with product graphics overlaying it, looking at product design with the housing part of what we're doing in the products and how they manifest themselves as brands. What I want to talk about is how the three disciplines of industrial design, being the micro, the architecture being the macro, and then the graphic design kind of intersperse and work together as within the firm as we currently practice it. So one of the things that we did in the beginning was primarily graphics, primarily product design, but then we merged those three, and I want to show you those aspects of how we respond to context in terms of responding to context from a historical standpoint, responding to context of a cultural standpoint of the clients, and how we design spaces. Different than designing industrial design, which winds up being a product on a tabletop. Different than an architect would design a space as a building. We look at how the spaces within those buildings communicates a certain narrative, a certain story. So how do you get that story across? You look at environments, you look at how environments engage you, you look at how colors can engage you. You just keep your eyes open to context and areas that you experience around, in this case, around the world. How colors can be influencing something. In terms of context, in terms of a brand story, one of the things I wanted to showcase is a brand launch that we did for Sony Ericsson, and this was a merger between a Japanese firm and a Swedish firm, Ericsson being a technology firm, Sony being a marketing firm. When they merged together in 2002, one of the things we dealt with was a Japanese minimalist culture and a Swedish minimalist culture and an American maximalist culture of marketing. And those three coming together, how do you manage that context? How do you manage it through architectural vision? How do you manage it through a graphic vision? And how do you manage it through industrial design? By that I mean the product that you're going to showcase. So one of the things that we looked at doing here was to talk about these two giants coming together. So we designed an exhibit at the trade show that had two large letter forms, the S and the E, that was actually seen from all sides, so it turned into an S and an E on the other side as well. From an architectural standpoint, the training that for example, that I had here at Georgia Tech was to look at how people experience a space, how people experience a visual iconic space, how people experience going through a space. So we looked at not only the standpoint of an exhibit being a kit of parts, as normally trade shows exhibits are, but creating a space that you would have to make a conscious effort to go up the stairs, as opposed to just engaging a carpet and walking across a carpet. You'd walk up the stairs or you'd walk up to the upper level, so it became an iconic piece of architecture. The lower level of the space was an exhibit of cell phone technology. It had media rooms, it had conference rooms, and it had an upstairs area for private meetings. So what we do as a firm, we're kind of a hybrid, and we're a 10-person firm. We operate like an architect would operate, from early schematic design to design evolution, design development, design documents, and then overseeing the construction of the installation. The way we operate differently than an architect is generally we work with people that are more artisan-like in terms of the people that we work with to make these pieces. Sometimes they're one-off. In this case, it was one-off. Sometimes there's several that are produced. Sometimes there may be hundreds produced, but we're not operating traditionally like an industrial designer would, where there's millions of pieces produced. So generally, we're looking at things that are very limited in production.